All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Imuna trying to do my simulcast thing. I pray everybody is doing well, and I also pray that this is a regular occurrence. Okay, so I'm just working on the best time to go live, but until then, we're just gonna do what it is that we do. Yeah. So shout out to everybody who have just joined us. I wanted to talk briefly about once again, every so often this topic on mental health pops up. If you're in certain circles, certain areas of social media, it pops up every day. And then there are people who present as though all is well. You know what I mean? All is good in the hood. And then we hear something like this, and then everybody is taken aback, and we don't know what to do with the conversation concerning DJ Twitch. Now, admittedly, I did not watch a lot of popular media. I did not watch Ellen's show, right? But the story is the same. A similar story came out earlier this year with a young woman who was, I think she was Miss America. I think early March this year, right? And many other stories, and some of them may give you pause to go, like what's really going on. There's some people who was questioning whether or not the person was able to, in some circles, unalive themselves, to delete themselves, and what would necessarily lead somebody to this. Now, I am not a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. I am somebody who has done the internal work for myself. I'm just gonna put that out there. I saw a lot in the spaces of TikTok where there are a lot of clinical psychologists, psychiatrists who are admittedly saying A, they're burnt out, B, they entered into psychology as a trauma response to try to fix the people around them because they themselves came from an abusive, traumatic situation. And this is their way of trying to find a balance, right? So just because someone is a doctor and they have the head knowledge doesn't mean they went through the actual steps to get to the other side. And then there was someone else who talked about the looping nature. Shout out to everybody who just joined us. The looping nature of a lot of these conversations. And that's kind of, I'm not even going to front. That's kind of what gets me oftentimes is that, like, for instance, the subject of narcissism. I remember when I started researching narcissism, I want to say 12, 13 years ago, right? Because I didn't know what it was. I knew what I was experiencing in my personal relationships, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to put a finger or a label on it, right? And so back then, that was back in like 2009, 2010, the social media was not popping the way it is now, okay? Social media is not popping, but the internet was popping in the sense of blogs were popping, books, this, then, and the third. So I remember one day I was speaking to my mother, who was a social worker, and she is like, what you're experiencing is a narcissist. And it's like somebody blew a dog whistle or something. I was like, ooh, what narcissist? Tell me more. What's that? Right? I was green. I was brand new. Today, everybody's like, let me tell you about narcissism. Back then, there was no Sam Vaktin. There was no, what's her name? The other, the good doctor, she's on YouTube. Her name is going to come to me right now. The Indian lady. If you know her name, drop it in the description below. Oh, man, her name is going to come to me. And y'all will see sometimes my mind slips a little bit. So please sit with me. Because there's just a lot in it. Okay. So at that time, in the beginning of my journey in this mental health space, the spiritual journey started many years early. But the understanding the mental health space in this capacity, that is what set me on a mission. And I scrubbed the internet. Think about 2009 internet. Don't think about 2022 internet. This is 2009 internet. Okay. So this is a long blog post, like somebody's putting in dissertations, and I'm looking and I'm trying to understand it. Everybody I'm finding is saying, forget it, just forget it. If you see it, if they're a narcissist, run away, block, gray rock, do all of these things. And there was one couple who were talking about an alternative. And I remember reaching out to them, and they gave me their book, and I read. And then that started the whole narcissism, codependent, depression, family trauma, all of that in this specific capacity. I say all of that to say that it's been a long time trying to understand. And I'm glad that the conversation is happening in the open, but there's also something else that's happening, which is the constant looping. Like every day, especially on certain platforms, now the narcissist has become the almost on a pedestal, really, right? Because now every other video is about the narcissist, and every other video is how to navigate the person who has hijacked your life in some capacity, right? So that's kind of wild and crazy. So when we look at something that is happening in today's space and time that we the people just found out about, that the news is saying that someone took their own existence without any indication that something was wrong, it leaves a lot of question marks everywhere. A lot of like, what, huh, who, why, when, where, all of these type of things. And by the way, I'm streaming on Instagram. So if you miss it, I'm streaming on in Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under Amuna Yisrael. So if you miss it, you can definitely come back and check this out. As like I said, as I tweak the best time to stream for me and for you, you know what I mean? But there's some books that I kind of wanted to share that I came across during this time of trying to find out. So let me go to why sometimes the strong one, the happy one, the person who is always trying to make everyone else at ease. And I'm not saying this is exactly what happened, because we don't know exactly what happened. This is what we're being told. But generally, the person who's trying to overcompensate for whatever is going on may have weak moments. That's like they say, check on your strong friends. That is also a trauma response, right? That is also a trauma. It can be the person's personality, but if they always and continuously put other people before themselves, if I do that, if you do that, if you know someone who does that, you're like, oh, this person is selfless. And to a certain degree, you have to have boundaries where you take care of yourself, your who you truly are, right? And in this social media space, the more you, and just in life, the more you overcompensate in a certain space and make other people feel good is the value that they give you. But if you're addicted to that, right? And one day you want to authentically show up as yourself, some people cannot deal with that level of rejection, because a lot of times in these spaces, it doesn't allow for you to authentically show up or have a diverging opinion. If you do, then all of the nice, lovely things that people said about you, all of a sudden, especially in the internet, quickly, now, you're the demon with horns on and all of these things like that. So I say all that to say that if this is a slippery slope, I know we've heard it before, we've said it before. So, the loss, definitely the condolences to the family, to the people who knew this man and he's younger than I am. He could be like my little brother. I'm thinking to myself, that's crazy, right? What would bring someone to this point? Before I go a little further, I kind of heard the other day, and I didn't get to speak on it, Kanye West. I don't, a lot of people saying, he said some outrageous things on the Alex Jones show. But one of the things he said that didn't miss me, it wasn't lost on me, is that he was like, I think he's aware that he's out of control. But one thing he said was, they're gonna do whatever they want to do to him, but he doesn't care. I want to loosely quote him because he wants to see his mother. And as we the people know, his mother is no longer here in the flesh. So that's showing when people say certain things and idealize certain thought processes, that's really telling us, without telling us, but telling us where their mind is. And a lot of people jumped into his conversation on the Holocaust and his conversation around other things, but missed the fact that he said some real wild stuff just now. Like, what did you say? You know what I mean? Like, what did you just say? Your mother is not here. So what are you saying? Are you doing all these things so that people will come for you? Question. Now, this is a book that was this book given to me, or did I? Okay, a great place to get some of these books are different places, but one of them is the library when they're having book sales. Of course, Amazon, just different kind of places. So this book is the Depression Handbook. Now, a lot of people don't realize that depression shows up in so many different ways. It doesn't just show up as, oh, I'm depressed. It shows up in different ways in which we overcompensate for the things that may be going wrong, right? And when we have to sit with ourselves, when we have to take stock, when we feel a void, or an emptiness inside that can bring on depression. It can be triggered by anything, really, depending on what your void is. So this depression handbook is interesting. So, and it can be dealt with people, overeating and gambling and doing dangerous behavior, and beneath that, I think I went over that in the Solonomics book. That's why I go into feeling so much, because what is beneath depression? Beneath depression is sadness, right? And sadness is heaviness, and it's associated with what's on this cover, which is the color blue and water, right? Usually when you're depressed, you're sad, you're heavy, the gloomy day makes you depressed. If we can understand that some of these concepts, when you put them into words like depression, it doesn't really necessarily describe fully what you're experiencing. And so just I found in my own journey, and I can only share from my real lived experience, I found that when I was able to break these concepts down and better identify the feeling, then I would be able to navigate it better than just saying, oh, depressed, like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? What does that mean? So when we see the man, DJ Twitch, who passed on, right? When we see him dancing and everybody is going back to TikTok and his last TikTok and his last video, and he was dancing and he was X, Y, and Z, and people's like, oh, including myself, I'm like, he doesn't look like something was wrong. But oftentimes, again, if somebody's inclined towards something and that's how they get their attention and that's how they get their accolades, and that's how they kind of prop up their self-esteem and their self-worth, they would, even though you may be feeling overall something, if you're a certain type of personality or character, you're not going to bring that to the public. I forgot to ask if I could be heard, and I'm on both of these things, so hopefully I can be heard. You're not necessarily going to bring that to the public. What you're going to show the public, if you are a public personality, which in this case this person was, what you're going to show the public is the things that necessarily are going to be able to get you what it is that you need to make it through another day. Now, again, the story just off the rip, he leaves on Monday, then, which is a normal, I don't know. I'm the type who likes to wait a little bit to hear a little bit more about what's going on, because there's many questions. Okay. So I find that education helps in the process, but along with the education, it has to be actionable results. That's one of the things that Iyanla Vanzant, although her stuff was kind of wild and over the top, there's one of the things that she incorporated in her style, her brash style of pushing you through that barrier, is by having you do some actionable things, right? Because my stomach is growling. Having you do some actionable things so that you can connect what you're feeling with what you're doing, with what you're thinking, right? And so educating yourself is definitely an important first step in whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to be depressed. It can be you're burnt out or you're overwhelmed or whatever the case may be. Welcome to everybody who just joined us. Let me know if you can hear me. Put something in the box below. Shout out everybody else who may be here. And like I said, I'm tweaking it so we can find a better time. But for right now, I'm going to have to get this off because then I'm going to have to go. So A is educating ourselves, but we can easily become trapped in the book after book after book. Oh, this one looks good. And, I'm talking from experience. This one looks good and that one looks good. And within each book, you're going to have a few places that you're like, okay. And you're going to take that out and put it in your toolkit. And you're going to come over here and take it out and put it in your toolkit. And it's kind of something that you, the individual, and I often tell people this, have to do for yourself. Because I can only share with you my experience, which I wrote in an autobiographical novel the very first time. So I'm speaking from experience, and I'm a person who likes action. And what writing this autobiographical novel did, and essentially the autobiographical novel is kind of like the in the movie The Best Man, because everybody's still around, so you kind of want to put it in an autobiographical novel, okay? If you're not ready to, as they say in the streets, spill all of your tea, You put it in something that is comfortable for you and those who may be around you. But the benefit of doing this is all of the books that I've read, all of those things are giving me tools to understand whatever I was experiencing. But actually, they said the pen is mightier than the sword. Actually writing these things out, I'm waving to everybody who just joined us. Actually sharing, that is part of the healing process. What's going on? That is part of the healing process. And a lot of people don't understand the value of it. There's so many people who said, oh, I could write a book. I should write a book. My story has been so interesting that I would write a book. And it's not, you know, and then you wait till the person is famous and then they write a book. And then everybody's like, oh, it's New York's bestseller because they wrote a book when they were famous. And we only think that the value comes, a lot of people only think that the value comes from writing a book when people are going to care. I found the value in writing the book because I cared, right? And what it does is when we get to write our life down or the experiences in chapters, we have to go back into our memory bank. So for us to understand, sometimes to get a better picture or a bigger picture, we have to be able to map it out, right? So when you go through a lot of these books, you're getting bits and pieces of your experience. Now, let's say, for instance, they're saying that someone did this to themselves, the DJ Twitch. That's what they're saying, right? That's the official narrative. What would bring someone to this point? Someone is struggling with something. Someone has a certain limited perspective on life. Someone feels as though they did something that may be unexcusable. There can be a host of reasons why someone will make this very final choice to do something that is irreversible, right? And there are steps that lead up to this point. You see what I'm saying? There's steps that definitely lead up to this point. And sometimes we see people in our daily lives or in our family or in your congregation or wherever you are, and there's something on their heart and on their mind. And I said this the other day, that sometimes we compare traumas and minimalize and trivialize other people's experience, because if it was me and when I did it and you shouldn't be. And this is why sometimes a lot of people don't come out and share their thoughts and share their experiences, because they feel as though you're either going to trivialize it, minimalize it, you're going to scandal them, you're going to gossip about them. The other day I saw a video where a woman, she was bawling. And she's willing to put this on the internet to strangers, that they're so lonely, but she doesn't have anyone to talk to because all they're going to do is all these negative things. So she would rather come and share it to strangers on the internet in hopes that you will make some type of human connection. There are a lot of people, I would dare to say this, there's never been a time like this, that there's so much availability to connect, but so much lack of connection. What time is it? There's so much lack of connection right now in today's space and time, because to a certain degree, we have trivialized human interaction. We have, everything is in this space. So when we have to actually care about somebody and how they're feeling and what they're going through, it's too much. Also, because we have too much on our plate. The other day, again, I came across a video where a woman left from this country. She was from Jamaica, and she left from America, and she went back to Jamaica, and she asked the lady in the supermarket, how are you doing? And the lady in the supermarket, me not do too well, me not feel too good, and my back hurt me. And she said she was shocked. Like, what the boss said? Like, I asked you how you was doing. That is not the traditional response. You're supposed to tell me I'm doing well. Because we are so sanitized in this space and time, we are so disconnected that when we ask people, especially in America, how you're doing, oftentimes we really don't care. We're just saying that to be pleasant. How you doing or how you're doing has become pleasantries. It's not where you really want to know how the person is doing. And like she said, in other countries and other cultures, if you're going to ask, better you just say hi and bye. Because if you're going to ask the person how you doing, they're going to begin to tell you all the ways in which they're doing. And so, there's people who is afraid to say when they're doing well because they're not secure in their environment. And there are people afraid to say that when they're doing bad because, again, they're not secure in their environment. You don't trust that the people around you, which is an indication that you have the wrong people around you, right? then don't trust that the people around you are going to meet your needs or celebrate with you when you're doing good. So you have so many, songs and so much popular lore and legend that, hey, if you're doing good, don't tell people. And if you're not doing good, so then who do you talk to? You're lonely. There we go back to the loneliness again, right? And so the loneliness on top of trauma or on top of whatever it is that you may be covering, because sometimes success doesn't mean that you're not still hurting and you're not still in pain. It just means that you have more people may know you, or you may have more access to resources. And it doesn't mean that the void that some people feel, a lot of people may feel. What's the name of the other guy? Robin Williams. We saw major depression in Jim Carrey. We saw a major depression in many of the people who the world has told us have met success, but they can't seem to crack this particular code. Now, I'm just going to speak from what I know in relation to the void, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Okay. The void, right? Maybe I should make this another video. But the void that sometimes we feel, or at a certain time was developed, or maybe you came here feeling it, cannot be filled with material possessions. I should just drop the mic and go now. But no, for real. The void cannot be filled with material possessions. And this is why people who meet worldly success, if you compare them sometimes to people in other countries who may not even have shoes, who may not even have a bed to lay down on, who have to go to the field every day and cut their food, and they seem more content, more well-rounded, more connected, more self-aware, more divinely aligned than the person who has all these things. And the person who has all these things is like, wait a minute, why is it that you don't have on no shoes, your foot bottom dirty, you lay down on the ground with your 3 brother them and your dog and your cat, and you don't have a care in the world? How is that possible? How is that possible? Because the void has to do with this depression, these feelings, they reside in the soul. This is where our feelings reside. And so if they don't have those injuries, that the physical possessions are just adding on to the experience. It doesn't make their experience. What makes their experience is these connections. One of the interesting things, and I said I was going to roll, right? One of the interesting things that I saw when I was on the continent, right? When I went to Africa, and we see this, is the beginning of the journey, when the child is first born. America, European, Western society tell you, oh, sleeping, protecting the child, and don't have the child in the same bed, and rip the baby off the titty at 3 months. All of these time periods, all of this time helps for the child to have a healthy human connection. It helps the child to be rooted in their root chakra, okay? It helps the child to be rooted and to know that their needs will be met, to know that they are safe, they are loved, they are protected. So one of the things is that the mothers would often flick the child on the back. Let me use this like a rapper, right? They'll flick the child on the back. Then they put the child right behind them. Brand new baby, you know. The baby head is doing like this right here. The baby look well content. She flicked the baby there. She tied that joint up like this right here. And I'll be like, but ain't the baby gonna fall? And they do it and they go around again and they bam. The baby, and they're moving. The baby is close. The baby is hearing heartbeat. The baby is getting skin to skin contact. The baby is aware that the mother is there. The baby sleep, the baby wake up, the baby eat, the baby look around at strangers behind them. Boom. There's no question. Let them be on the breast as long as they need to. When it's time for them to wean, it's time for them to graduate to the next stage. All of these things, why is someone saying all of this stuff? All of this stuff from the very beginning, if it is done correctly, it minimizes the gap or the chances that their void within the soul would be developed. Sometimes we don't know what's wrong with us. because whatever happened before you even had speech. It happened before you could even communicate what the problem was. And so because it's in your subconscious, because it's so embedded in the core of who you are, it's hard to retrieve those things. This is why I said over the years, maybe the time is now. Okay, I used to say the time is now. Maybe the time is now. But I've said over the years that there's great importance in your own personal story and journey. Now, I offer for a limited time story coaching to get you along the path. Some people just need a push. Some people need you to hold their hand. But it's a very labor-intensive process. But I would say that it's a very rewarding process because it's going to allow you to begin to excavate different parts within you that you have long forgotten or you have never remembered, right? And if you move through the process, and it's not like, oh yes, one day and I'm done. No, it's going to take time because these things are going to come in waves. There's things that you may need to ask your granny, or you may need to ask your mother, or you may need to ask your father, because there are things that there are settings before when you came here that are very important to the storyline. It's like somebody going in to go read for a Hollywood script, and they're giving you the background of the character. I think we're not looking at this in the ways in which we need to look at it. You need to know what is the background of the character. What's going on with this person? Where did they come from? What are their experiences so that you can hone in and tune in? And you are the character. You are the character, right? The other day, and then I'm a wrap up. And I think let me know a good time to stream. I'm gonna be working on it. But here's what I heard the other day. So the other day, the children and I was doing a Bible study, right? And I said we were learning about olive oil and how in antiquity they would press the olive oil and the process that the olives went through in order for you to get the olive oil and the different grades, right? So this one particular tour guide in Israel, he starts talking about the press and the olive and what you name the thing and all of these very important things. Next thing you know, he says, and I found it weird, but I was aware of what he was experiencing. He says, I asked my mom and my father, because they named me, I think they named him Daniel. And he's like, I asked them, what was their mood when they named me? What energy were you in? And they said they didn't know. And the tour guide, in the middle of his sharing and doing with people, he was offended and he went off on a tangent. Why? Because there's a part of him that he's trying to understand that he can make sense of his reality and his now, but his parents were not consciously creating or consciously recalling the space and time that they were in, and it's leaving him in a bit of confusion. This can create a void. We can internally know something and not know how we know it, and it causes this dissonance within because we can't recall what's going on with us because we didn't physically experience it at this space and time, if that makes any sense. So again, I go on to say that because depression can come from a number of things. This morning's meditation was, if a man returns good or with evil, evil should not depart from his house. And I shared the thought that evil, your house is who is also in your house. Your mother, your father, your sisters, your brothers, your children, your dog. So therefore, some people may be experiencing certain things that predates their actual entrance into the storyline. Before you even came in the story, there's a possibility that there were some things going on and that you experienced things based on what was already happening in the narrative. I'm gonna leave it right there. So again, my condolences to his family. I'm gonna work on coming on more often. I would say that if we are the person who's experiencing some depression, I'll just leave it at depression. If we look at what depression is and kind of get a handle on it, right? We know that somewhere along the line, even in the world, something is depressed, something is pressed down, depressed, right? What is weighing you down? It's an actionable thing, right? So we look and see what's weighing you down. And even if you begin to write those things out in your conscious mind, you don't even have to go any further. In the forefront of your mind, what are the things that are weighing you down, or the person who you may know, what is weighing you down? Put words to the feeling. Name it. It's like he said when he named the animals, he didn't just have all of these, stripy thing with the black and white. The animal had to have a name. You call it an elephant, long nosy thing with the hooves. Like, bro, what is it? What is it named? What's the name of it? So she said, come on more often. I'm working on it. Since I'm ironing out some details here, and I'm trying to set myself on the schedule, y'all. I'm trying to set myself on the schedule. Woo! I'm trying to do the schedule thing. I know it's something I got to do. See, I'm gonna try to grow up. I'm trying to do the schedule thing. We're working on it. Okay. So put a name to it. If you don't know how to name it yet, give its characteristics. And then you can eventually get to the naming. Sometimes we take on way too much. Video after video, TikTok after TikTok, YouTube after YouTube, Facebook after Facebook, Instagram after Instagram, blog post after book after. And it's like, and then at the end, it's just so much stuff that you absolutely do nothing. Right. And then you feel like, oh, I still haven't gotten to where I want to be. So I would say the first thing is start where we are. Since this conversation is around mental health and it's a perfect springboard to have the conversation. If you need to have the conversation in your wife, because there's some people in this particular case, the man was married, he had children, he was successful in the world's language. And did I put the link so that you can join me? If you would like to join, I always say this though, but y'all don't be joining. Well, you're scared to come on camera? We need people who's willing to come up here, not only listen to the conversations, but also share their experiences so that other people can learn, because this is how other people learn, by hearing other people's experiences as well. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to put that out there as well so that, oopsie. Yeah, so that we can learn by sharing, okay? No, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I gave an assignment at the end of this conversation here. Now, I know if I came in here and say, yo, I know how to make y'all make $10,000 in 2 days, and everybody be like, yeah, how to make $10,000 in 2 days. You feel me? But I think I've picked a field that really it picked me, that you have to have some level of integrity moving through this space, because I just intrinsically knew and understood that you need finances and resources to exist, right? In this construct, you do. However, is it the be all end all? No, because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to come right back here. It's like saying, forget you, I don't need you. I don't care what you're saying. I'm gonna go do what I gotta do, okay? I'm gonna get the bag. I'm like, okay, and when you get the bag, come back. Because then at the end, you're going to be like, I got the bag, but I don't feel like I'm supposed, it's not giving what it's supposed to be given. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not giving what it's supposed to be given, because there's more to life. So if you don't know the name of it, if you can't yet fully name it, name its characteristics first. How is it making you feel? If you're trying to help a child, a teenager, if someone who wants help, let me just say, if you're trying to help someone who wants help, then I would say put your characteristics. What is it making you feel like? When do you most feel it? What does it make you do? All of these things, so that you can begin to move your way from there. There was another comedian on here. There's two comedians on here. They got famous off of social media. Depression, bipolar, all of these things are going on, but only because they're entertaining us and they make us feel good and we laugh and it's funny and bleezy blazy. When they turn off the camera, what all of that hype and all of those lights and all of that fades away, and they sit with themselves and their decisions and their choices and their lives and their fears and their expectations and all of these things. And for some people, it comes to a point where it becomes too overwhelming. We don't want that. We don't want to get to that point. You know what I mean? And so hopefully we don't just have these conversations when, you know, something else pops up on our timeline. Hopefully we have the stamina to continue to move through these discussions so that they're beneficial. So again, if you want to, I'm trying to stop saying by the way. If you would like to have a jumpstart discussion, what did I name it? If you would like to have a jumpstart discussion on writing your own book and you want a coaching consultation, hold on, peoples. Ooh. I put the link. I believe that's the link. I put the link there. I just said again. See, that's the self-consciousness. I'm gonna stop saying The instruction is don't say you just pause. Like you're meditating. Instead of saying So I'm working on it. And then we can go from there. So with that said, the Depression Handbook, I believe you can get it. This is by Wayne Canton, MD, and Yvette Ludman and Gregory E. Simon. I believe you can get it on Amazon. I will look for that link and put it in the description below as well. Maybe we can come back and talk about some of the things maybe going on. It may be vitamin. You may be off. You may have a deficiency. You may not be getting enough sleep. You may not be getting enough nutrition. You may not be getting enough, quiet as it's kept. Not so quiet. You may not be getting enough vitamin D. You may be inside too much. If you live in northern climates, this is one of the reasons I was like, I got to go from up north. You will live in normal climates, especially if you melanated. You live in northern climates and you stay inside all day because it's cold and you don't see the sun. You don't get enough vitamin D. You need the vitamin D, not the other kind of D, the vitamin D to help you get in touch and to be balanced, because we need vitamin D. We need more vitamin D because the story is that our bodies do not store the vitamin D as much. We use it up, and therefore we need a higher dose of it, and because we are equatorial people. Okay? I said I was going to go, but hey. Okay? So we'll come back and probably go through this book and some others, and hopefully we don't make ourselves too depressed. And we get to the other side of that, where there's real contentment, and that there's real joy, and that there's real love, and that there's real connection, not so much this farce and this pretense. You know what I mean? Or that you may not even be taking enough time for yourself, or that you're taking too much time for yourself. Sometimes, I keep saying I gotta go, but it just keeps flowing. So I'm gonna go at 12, right? 5 more minutes. Sometimes we're depressed because we're not giving of ourselves. We're hoarding the energy. So we live in a universe where there's reciprocity, give and receive, right? And in that reciprocity, it connects and completes the circle. So when someone just absorbs and takes and takes and takes, and they don't give back, right? You feel heavy, because when we're talking the other day about, and this book we're going to be reading in conjunction, which is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I'm just going through and picking out some interesting things. He's talking about quantum physics, and he's talking about matter, and he's talking about how things materialize here in this 3D dimensional space. Not to get all new agey, but we materialize. We're spiritual beings that then come into form. So if you're in the space of just taking, whatever it is, energy, information, thoughts, whatever it is, you become heavy, more dense. The waves start going slower, and you become depressed because you're taking in too much and you're not giving any. This is why some rich people, you'll see that they say they feel better. They feel better when they give. You see the Mr. Beasts, and you see the people, the young youth, them on YouTube giving away salaries that their mother and father would have made for a YouTube video. Because once you collect all of this material possession, it makes you feel heavy. So then in order to complete the cycle, you have to continue to give. That, and the fact that it might be a tax write-off, but that's another story for another day. We're not going down that road. No, we're not. The link is in the bio if you want to tap in. And so you have to have this level of reciprocity. So it is on the other side. You may feel empty if all you're doing is giving, 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 and you're not open to receive. If you're not open to receive, then you cannot be replenished. And if not, you're not replenished, then you feel empty. Right? And so it's because we are out of spiritual alignment that a lot of the things befall us. In the same way, because our bodies are out of alignment, that's what disease comes in. So when we're out of spiritual alignment, things don't work. You know what I mean? And when things don't work, we look around in our environment and be like, I know why this is befalling me, without first saying, what is it that I am doing? What is going on in my environment? What am I contributing to? What thought process am I holding on to that's causing me to X, Y, and Z? It may be some meddlesome people outside. It may be the haters, possibly, but it may also be you. It may also be me. So we have to be able to give and receive in this way so that we can open up these and be in alignment with these universal principles. The sun does not always shine. It does, but not on you and me. You know what I mean? Everybody get their little piece, except for this one place. Well, I forgot what the place they say the sun never sets. There's a little dot on the globe where it never sets. And I do remember, what is it? Alaska for the summertime, it may not set way down 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the night. And that's abnormal. How do you sleep? How do you sleep? Anywho, with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like I said, the link is in the bio. If you just want to jumpstart this conversation, I've been doing this for many years. That's why I've gone quiet for a little bit, because I'm like, why am I still talking? Ain't nobody listening. Ain't nobody listening. It's like, what am I supposed to do? And you be like, well, what you're about to do is go up the corner, around the thing, jump through the water. They be like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It's like, how do you lose weight? Okay, what you got to do is they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Come back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later and still have to do the thing we didn't want to do. So might as well get it done. With that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is Amuna. I pray everybody is doing well. Like, subscribe, share, do all that lovely stuff, and we'll come back again. I'm going to try to get a schedule here, people. I'm working on it. All right, bless everybody. Have a blessed day. Now, let's see here. How do we... And I do have some comedy videos, so if y'all see me entertaining myself, it's okay. I just like to share when Karen comes on. Let me see now. Karen comes on and she doesn't know how to come on this computer. Okay, I think I pressed this little X doohickey here. Okay. And then over here, thank you guys. Ta-ta for now. We're going to press this here. We're going to do this little doohickey here, and we're going to press bye-bye. Ta-ta for now.